Banks are failing left and right, but unfortunately we don't have a crystal ball. So in place of the banking crisis, which doesn't appear to be artificial, let's talk about another crisis, climate change, which voters tell us is artificial. We asked voters, do you agree or disagree climate change has become a religion that actually has nothing to do with the climate and is really about power and control? And thanks to Vivek Ramaswamy for supplying that quote. 60% of voters at least somewhat agree, including 43% of voters who strongly agree. 35% of voters disagree, but only 25% of them strongly disagree. This slide is the biggest mind blower. Although 18 to 39-year-olds are less likely to strongly agree, they are far more likely to agree overall, 69% of them, and only 26% of them disagree with that statement. Stop and breathe that in. These 18 to 39-year-olds are probably the ones subjected to the most modern climate dogma. In fact, schools are now officially incorporating the narrative into curriculums, as this headline about my home state indicates. But only 11% of 18 to 39-year-olds strongly disagree that climate change is a religion that's really about power and control. I don't know about you, but to me this tells me this thing does not have legs. So why is climate change still a number 5 overall voter issue? Because good portions of voters over 40 believe it's genuine. 38% of middle-aged voters and 41% of voters over 65. But here are the party numbers. 79% of Republicans say climate change is a religion that's really about power and control, but 19% disagree, as do 37% of independents, and a plurality of Democrats, 49%. But here's the Biden approval numbers, and if you watched our video on FBI agents provoking the January 6th riot, you'll see a familiar pattern. Biden's strongest supporters rate him incredibly high on the issue of climate change. 92% of them say excellent or good. But now look at these numbers. 45% of them actually agree that climate change is a religion that's about power and control. And 31% of them strongly agree, the most besides any other group except Biden's strong disapprovers. Only 52% of those who strongly approve of Biden actually think the climate crisis is genuine. In the comments recently, a viewer of ours asked me for examples of authoritarianism on the left. I think you might want to look here. Now, is the problem of climate change getting better or worse? 21% of voters say better, but 32% say worse, and 42% say it's staying about the same. I think that's another really big headline right there. Only 68% of voters say the problem of climate change isn't getting worse, nearly 7 out of 10 of them. Who's most likely to say the climate is getting worse? Here's the top of the list. As expected, liberals are up there, but also black voters, low-income voters, those without high school degrees, and Democrats. But 37% of moderates also think climate change is getting worse. But look at the Biden approval entries. Voters who somewhat disapprove or somewhat approve of Biden are actually significantly more likely than Biden's strong approvers to say the climate change problem is getting worse. Why? Well, a lot of them think he's making meaningful change. 59% of Biden's strong approvers rate him excellent on the issue of climate change. And here's how those who rate Biden excellent answer the question of whether the problem is getting better or worse. 48% of them, a plurality, say the problem's getting better. Among those who rate Biden good and fair, pretty large chunks say that the climate problem is still getting worse. And those who rate Biden poor on climate overwhelmingly say the problem is staying about the same. 84% of those who rate Biden poor also think climate change is a religion that's really about power and control. The final slide, Joe Biden's rating on the issue of climate change. 46% rate him excellent or good, but only 22% rate him excellent. Only 35% of Democrats rate him excellent, as well as 21% of independents and 10% of Republicans. Believe it or not, this is actually one of his best issues, about where voters rate him on his COVID response. But don't you think these numbers would be higher? If you learn something or have something you want to say about public opinion on climate change, please post in the YouTube comments. Subscribe to the channel, follow us on Twitter, and thanks for watching.